Well, hello, everybody. Peter Greenberg here for our weekly global travel update. Hope you're doing okay wherever you happen to be. We happen to be in Miami, attending the annual Global Sea Trade Summit, which, imagine this, every CEO, every supplier, every port, every ship line, every cruise company imaginable that has to do with cruise ships. They're all jammed in here, 6,000 of them at the Miami Beach Convention Center. I'm here, of course, to learn what's going on and, of course, to report back to you on good, bad, and ugly in the world of cruising, most of which I have to tell you looks pretty good, especially in terms of sustainability and the environment, which I'll be reporting on in the coming weeks. But most importantly, learning about new ports, new restrictions, new rules, new responsible modes of travel, and some other creative ideas along the way. So stay tuned for that. Let's get into the news right now. And of course, it's Boeing, Boeing, Boeing. It's Southwest. It's Spirit, it's airfares, and it's going to be a miserable summer. How about that for an introduction? Let's start with Boeing. More whistleblowers coming out, one in particular in South Carolina that the FBI now is investigating along with the U.S. Justice Department. Congress has now asked the Boeing, I'm not going to say that, they didn't ask, they demanded that the Boeing CEO now come back and testify in front of Congress to basically explain what's going on. And if you follow the whistleblower claims, and again, I emphasize their claims, but they are being investigated. It's that he and others witnessed bad workmanship, sloppy assembly, wrong parts, and bad joint work. And that when they brought that to the attention of Boeing, it was ignored. And then worse, when they continued to bring it to the attention of Boeing, they were reassigned. Now, no planes have fallen out of the sky. Let's be honest about that. But that is something that's now being investigated as part of the criminal probe into Boeing's behavior. Now, just to give you some quick background, that criminal probe was there a couple of years ago after the two crashes of the Boeing 737 MAX in Indonesia and in Ethiopia. But Boeing settled that case conditionally by paying $2.5 billion. And the condition was that the criminal probe would not be reopened as long as Boeing did not repeat that behavior. Guess what? The criminal probe has been reopened and witnesses are being called. Stay tuned on that. Of course, the question they want to know, what did Boeing know and when did they know it? And then when they did know it, what did they do about it? This is going to be interesting to see what happens here. In the meantime, where's the FAA on all this? Finally stepping up to do what they should have been doing for the last 50 years, being an independent, hard regulatory agency to enact and enforce safety. And what has the FAA told Boeing? Assembly line can't continue unless we inspect the planes, not you. Other new planes can't be certified unless we certify them, not you. And the investigation is going beyond the 737 production line to the 787 production line vis-a-vis the new whistleblower claims. And it will not be surprising to see it extend to the 777 assembly line. So this means there are over 6,000 planes that Boeing has on order that aren't going anywhere right now until the FAA can inspect. The problem, of course, we talked about this last week, the FAA doesn't have the staff and the inspectors to do it. They never did, which is why they very stupidly delegated that job to employees of Boeing, and before them, McDonnell Douglas and Lockheed and Convair all those years. Now the FAA doesn't have a choice. They have to use their own inspectors. Now they have to have the funds and the time to hire and train them. So stay tuned for that. But I did mention the 787 production line, and let's get into that. You may remember, and I've talked about this before, that in the history of commercial aviation, when an airplane manufacturer comes up with a new plane, a new design, it has to be certified. How do they certify it? Well, they put a prototype on a test bed and then took every single component part to failure. That's how they knew how fast to fly it, how slow to fly it, how hot, how cold, angle of attack, everything, not to mention the propulsion units, the engines. They took every single part to failure. That's how they were able to certify the plane and also write the manuals. And that existed for every plane that Boeing ever built except one, the 787. Before the 787, planes were built of what? Metal. The majority of the 787 is built out of composite materials. Nothing wrong with that. But then how did you certify it? Did you the prototype on a test bed and take every single component apart to failure? Boeing did not. They went to the FAA and they said, Could we pretty please have permission to get this plane certified on computer? Are you kidding me? What happened to the real world scenario of hot, cold, fast, slow, and everything else, and pressure? And what did the FAA say? Okay. So the Boeing 787 was basically certified in computer simulations. And what did Airbus do when they saw that Boeing got FAA to agree to that? They got their regulator to agree to it when they developed the A350. And what's happening right now on both A350 planes and 787 planes? A lot of the composite materials, especially in wing areas, is delaminating. It's essentially, imagine peeling back an orange. That's what's happening here. It's ugly. I was on a flight recently where the entire left wing looked like it had been duct taped. Now, it wasn't duct tape. It's something that we call speed tape, very high strength tape that the FAA approves as a temporary fix to delamination. The next time you get on a 787, look at the wings. If you see a lot of tape, now you know what it looks like. Not a comforting feeling. But in addition, they're now finding out there are some structural cracks in bulkhead areas, especially in the cargo areas of the 787s, and some of those planes have been grounded for further inspection. Why? It's simple, folks. Metal bends. Composite materials snap. So stay tuned on that. Now, having said that, am I not going to fly on a 787 or a 737 tomorrow? Of course not. If I get on the plane and the pilots are happy, I'm happy. But that doesn't mean we need to refocus our efforts. Consider this. Last year, 2023, 37 million flights and one fatal crash in January of 2023 in Nepal. Those are unbelievably beneficial odds for us. And I'm rolling the dice every time I can, confidently, every time I get on a plane. But that doesn't mean that when a wing gets hit or a cowling flies off an engine like it did on a Southwest plane the other day in Denver, that we shouldn't be concerned. We should be concerned. We need to hold Boeing accountable. But more important, and I've said this time and time again, we need to hold the FAA accountable, because it was the FAA that allowed Boeing's behavior not only to happen, but to persist. So stay tuned on that. Moving on, let's talk about Spirit. Spirit has not been profitable since 2019. Its savior was going to be the JetBlue merger that the Justice Department fought against and a federal judge blocked. And because of that, Spirit finds itself in a huge cash crunch. And can they continue to operate? That's here it is. So what did Spirit announce this week? That as of September 1, they're furloughing 260 pilots. And they're deferring deliveries of all their new planes from Airbus until late 2025. What does that tell you about Spirit's viability as a going concern? We'll be watching that very carefully. Now, at the same time, what did United do 2 weeks ago? They asked their pilots to take an unpaid leave of absence. Why? Goes back to Boeing. They haven't been delivering the planes. Production lines are stalled. They don't have the planes now to support their schedule. What does this mean for us? We talked about it last week. I got to do it again now. Law, supply, and demand is going to get crazy here, because if you thought planes were full last year, get ready for this summer. They're going to even be more crunched, and flights will be consolidated. New routes will be delayed, if not canceled, and airfares, with planes being as full as they're going to be, have nowhere to go but up. So watch that space. We will be talking about that. The bottom line here is it's getting a little crazy out there, and the FAA has an opportunity now to really take a stand and move as quickly as they can to right the ship. It has to be done. Now, I'll be on a plane tomorrow. I'll be on a plane Friday. I'll be on a plane next week. It's not that I'm not going to think about it. I am. I'm going to be concerned about it, and you should be too. Right now, though, before we all go after Boeing, we need to take a stronger look at the FAA, again, because it was that agency that let all this behavior happen in the first place. All right, let's scroll down and say hello to some folks here. We'll start with, Harriet and Jim in Richmond, Virginia, always. Paul is saying hello from Ashland, Virginia, another Virginia person. Pri is now in Chicago. Okay. Robin saying hello from Williamsburg, Virginia, going on a cruise in 3 weeks to Alaska. So looking forward to it. Well, in 3 weeks, you know what? You're going a little bit of a shoulder season, but you know what? The cruise won't be that crowded. This summer, the cruises will be crowded. Have fun up there. All right. Lorena says, sunny greetings from Lansing, Michigan. Good news. The arriving AA flight I was to greet was delayed from Chicago for 2 hours, so I get to listen to me. I never think I'm the remedy for a delay. Please, but thank you anyway for your nice thoughts. Sue is saying hi from sunny Bellingham, Washington. Uh, Tempe, Arizona. Mary Louise, how are you? Colin Casey, happy 26th anniversary to the Good Friday Agreement of 1998 between Ireland and Northern Ireland, proving once again peace is possible. Yeah, let's not forget that. Mary Jo says hello from Pennsylvania. Camilla's in Tucson, of course. And Elif is in Dayton. Evelyn is in Florida. Debbie saying hi from Buffalo, New York. I'll be in Buffalo in a couple of weeks, as a matter of fact. Hello from Maryland to Taye. And Gloria is saying greetings from Jordanton, Texas. Leslie's saying greetings from Delray Beach, Florida, not far from where I am right now. Mark is saying hello from Portland. And Richard's saying Arusha. Well, we know where that is. Hello from Tanzania. Asante Sana. What are my thoughts, Ty? I want to know on visiting the French Riviera, Nice and Monaco in early to mid-May. Think it will be too crowded? No, it's the best. Look, there are 2 times you want to go to the French Riviera. May, but watch out for the Grand Prix in Monaco. Be careful of that. And September. The 2 glorious months where you can still sit out on the beach, have your croque monsieur, sip a coffee, and not necessarily be crowded. Okay. Sue wants to know, when should I get airfare for Barbados for September 4th? Is that Labor Day? Let me know, and then I'll tell you when to do it. James says, hello from Buckeye, Arizona. Were you able to use the new TSA screening process at Harry Reid Airport in Vegas, and what were your impressions? Well, I was in Las Vegas, and they did have it there, but of course, it's a test project, and they only open it about 3 hours a day, and I was on a night flight, so was not able to use it. I will go back and test it, I promise you. Speaking of the TSA, did you see the news earlier this week that the TSA now acknowledges that in 2023, more than 300 people were able to breach airport security and get into those terminals, and in many cases, sometimes board the planes themselves. Now, that's a little crazy, right? Now, nothing can be zero tolerance, but there you go, 300 people. Now, let's put that in some perspective. That's the 300 they know about. Think about that. Second of all, if they're screening 1.2 million people a day, and we're talking about a total number of people who got to get through security where they weren't supposed to, of only 300 in a given year, that's a pretty respectable percentage. Still, it should be zero. Now, of those 300, most were unintentional. They doubled back from baggage claim to try to get something, and they somehow got in. The ones who got on the plane, that's another story. Keep in mind that those officers that you see when you're leaving the terminal to go to baggage claim are not TSA officers. Those are rent-a-cops. And they're not armed. All they have with them is maybe a phone or a walkie-talkie. And what happens then, if somebody breaches the security and by the time they get the walkie-talkie going and trying to tell everybody what the guy looks like or what the woman looks like, now they have to lock down the whole terminal. There's got to be a better way. Of course, it all gets back to money, doesn't it? But anyway, statistics, more than 300 people were able to breach security. All of them, by the way, were either apprehended and or arrested. And there you have it. But remember, those were the amateurs. What about the professionals? Yeah, remember 9/11? Well, let's get rid of those rental cops and put perfectly trained officers at those choke points, or we have a breach, as we've just discovered. All right. Katrina saying hi from Alabama. Adrian saying hi from Surf City, Huntington Beach, California. Mark saying greetings from Oregon. Tom saying hello from Birmingham. Sorry, I missed seeing you in Atlanta. I was speaking at the Travel and Adventure Show. I'll be doing it again next year as well. Mark saying hello again from Oregon. Red is saying watching from Madrid at the Barajas Airport in between flights. Omelet and orange juice was 16 euros. Hey, you got off easy. You got off easy. FAA needs to be revamped. DOT needs to step up. Well, guess who the FAA reports to, Anna? The DOT. Hello, Pete Buttigieg. Now, he's got a difficult problem here. I'll tell you why. Boeing is the #1 export company in the United States. And it's not just their contracts with airlines in the private sector, it's their contracts with governments and military in the public sector. So it's a double-edged sword here. The DOT is regulating a chief supplier to them, right? When you think about the U.S. government. So, but new rules need to be in place, and they need to be in place soon. I agree with you. Ty says, any idea why the taxes and fees on British Airways are so high for flights from North America to London, especially on point redemptions? Yes, I'll tell you why. Because it's not about the flights from New York to London or from the US to London. It's about the flights out of UK airports back to the US. It's a very stiff, almost draconian user tax that the British government imposes on any ticket that's flying from the UK out of the UK. Okay? There's a way around it. We call it the open jaw ticket. If I'm going to fly to London, I don't want to pay up to $800 in taxes because basically they base those taxes on the full fare of your ticket, whether you paid for a full fare or not. And that especially applies to any mileage redemption tickets. So all of a sudden, a free ticket on miles is going to cost you $800 because you're able to get a free mileage business class ticket. So here's what you do. It's called the open jaw ticket. Fly the US to London, then take the train to Paris, fly home from Paris. And with all that money you save by not paying that draconian user tax, treat yourself to a wonderful meal and a hotel room in Paris. And you get an extra day. All right. Hello from Roanoke, says Renee. I'll be in Roanoke in about 6 days. We're going to be doing a special shoot at the Omni Homestead, America's oldest hotel, by the way. Anna's saying hi from Tampa. RS is saying hello from Vegas. Gene is saying, hey from Tulsa. Going on a cruise to Alaska in August. I imagine it will be packed. Yes, flights were crazy expensive to Vancouver. That's because they all know that's where the cruise ships leave from. Thank you, Jones Act. Anybody hear Jones Act? Why do you think Alaska cruises leave from Vancouver? Why wouldn't they leave from Seattle or San Francisco or a longer cruise from LA? It's because of the Jones Act that was passed in 1939 and still enforced. It was designed to protect the American merchant marine and ended up killing the American merchant marine because what it says is any ship not registered in the U.S. cannot sail between two U.S. ports unless it stops in a foreign port first. They did that to protect the stevedores. Remember them? To be unloading and loading ships. So guess what? America got bypassed. And so cruises for Alaska start in a foreign port so that they can go to Alaska. And there you have it. So keep in mind, that's why they do that. And that's why the flights are more expensive from Vancouver. Okay. Hello. And Adrian saying hello from Oregon. I believe that's true. Renee is saying, should I fly to Denver for 50th year high school reunion? I say no. Well, I went to my 50th high school reunion, and you know what? I say no too. It was, I'm glad I went, but let's not go there. All right. Sue says it's the Wednesday after Labor Day. Oh, for your flight? Yes. And if it's the Wednesday after Labor Day, those fares should come down. All right. Because people need to get back on the Tuesday after Labor Day as school starting, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, wait a little longer. Okay. All right. Here we go. Is it too early to buy flight tickets for Chile last week of November, Thanksgiving week? Actually, it may not be. Remember, you're dealing with Southern Hemisphere. November is their summer. They don't know from Thanksgiving, but they do know from summer crowds. Well, where are you going to fly in Chile? Are you going all the way down south, or are you flying just to Santiago? Let me know. Renee says, should I fly to Denver in August for? Oh, I just answered. Okay. Here we go. Jew, I think, is in Tokyo today. Elizabeth says, hi from Brooklyn Tech, preparing for AP exams. Remember those? All right. I can now make an admission here. I had to do the SATs, of course. You went to Brooklyn Tech. I went to Bronx Science. I was so bad in science and math that of a graduating class of 800, I was, I think, 740 in my grade point. All right. Now, if you think that's bad, we had kids in my high school. I remember one kid named Arnold. He was about this tall, wore big, thick glasses. I don't know how he stuffed the slide rule in his pocket, but he did. And he wore this white lab coat because it was the Bronx High School of Science. And everywhere he went, he goes, I'm going to get an 800 on my SAT. I'm going to get an 800. And guess what? He got a 796 in English, 794 in math, and he almost had to go to therapy because he missed the 800. So he went back and did a test again and got like 780. And I think he's still in therapy. Anyway, my combined score for English and math on the SAT was 539. No, actually it was 839. It was sort of like 490 in math and 540 in English. How I got into the University of Wisconsin, no one knows. I think the statute of limitations has expired. I thank them for their vision in ignoring my SAT scores and allowing me to go. All right, Ingrid says, generally Pete B is doing a good job. I think you're right, but this is his opportunity now. The FAA has to be tough and tougher. Okay, Anna says, $800 in taxes? Yes, let me explain. If you're buying a business class ticket or a first class ticket, it's heavily taxed. That's not what I was talking about. If you redeem miles for a quote unquote free business class round trip ticket to London, it will still be taxed as if you paid full fare for it. That's how the Brits get their money. That's why you want to take the train. All right. Well, thank you, Kathleen, for saying that. You want to know who they can suggest, who I can suggest to contact people for safety? Great. Find out who's the chairman of the Senate Aviation Committee, the House Transportation Committee. We already know about Pete Buttigieg. They read their mail. They are very aware of public opinion, either mail or email, and it's very easy to do it. Okay. And Linda says, I went to Taft in the Bronx. Well, had I not gotten into Bronx science, I probably would have gotten to DeWitt Clinton, and I probably would have gotten beaten up. I never would have gotten to college. I'd still be in the ward. Anyway, a couple of things I want to tell you guys about. First and foremost, Travel Detective Season 9 is about to premiere on PBS, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV+. We have a little sneak preview for you. Anthony, please run it.
On this season of The Travel Detective, we'll navigate a new course through uncharted waters in Antarctica, explore the rebirth happening right now in Detroit, test drive some military hardware in an unusual museum near Seattle, and discover the hidden gems of Lexington, Kentucky. Plus, we'll reveal the secrets of the one museum in America you can't visit, but we did. So join me, Peter Greenberg, each week on The Travel Detective.
There you have it. Next month. So check local listings. We'll give you more information as we get closer to the premiere. That's Season 9 of The Travel Detective. One interesting story I wanted to share with you, and it's research that just came out of one of the great travel research companies, and it was eye-opening. 18% of Americans said they would take a long-haul flight just to see their favorite artist in concert. 47% said they would take a long-haul flight just to go to their favorite restaurant. So how far have we come in our evolution of travel? Not far, because at the end of the day, it just gets back to a dinner and a show. But in this case, of course, we now call it something else, the Taylor Swift effect. Now, also, bottom line, you'll be paying more for that, of course, right? Airlines have now gone to understand not jet setting, but set jetting. How people also want to go visit the locations where movies were filmed. Talk about, Dubrovnik. All the Game of Thrones demented fans are there. So again, try to pick a time of the year when they're not trying to repeat scenes of their favorite shows in those locations. All right, let's go to some of the questions that you guys have asked. Jim says, why don't they have e-gates everywhere in Europe? Simple. Money. Technology costs money. It's not in the budget. And the other problem is that in many cases in Europe, I should say worldwide, the transportation minister doesn't really talk to the travel minister or the tourism minister. They don't understand that they're intertwined, that they sink or swim based on the first impressions of a country. And first impressions of a country where you're standing in line for 4 hours after an 11-hour flight is not a good impression. So 3 cheers to the folks in London. One thing I do have to tell you, though, I reported a couple of weeks ago that the 311 rule may be on the way out about your lotions and potions, and that's still true, but it's getting delayed. One airport now, London City Airport, has put the new machines in, which means you can take all your waters, your Diet Cokes, your lotions, your potions through security because they have the machines now that can actually detect what's a Diet Coke and what's Semtex. So that's good news. However, And it's really good news for people who want to spend $9 for a bottle of water on the other side of security. However, the same technology is available for London's Heathrow and London's Gatwick. And guess what? The British Airports Authority reports they haven't spent the money yet to get them installed. It's going to take a long time. So we're now talking 2025. By the way, that same technology is available right here in the US of A. I haven't seen one announcement from a single airline or from the DOT or from the Department of Homeland Security that they're being installed. Now, the TSA is doing better with biometrics. No doubt about that. Of course, we all love Clear, but we want those new CT scanner machines put in so that we're not really worried about our liquids. Enough is enough. Okay. Okay. Irene says, why is American Airlines the only airline to change its pet policy? Well, get ready. They're all going to follow suit. For those of you who don't know, American now, it sounds like a little thing, but it's not. If you're traveling with your pet and you want the pet in the cabin with you, first of all, it has to be approved. Second of all, it has to fit in the seat, under the seat in front of you, and it can't come out of its container. But most importantly, the airline up until recently counted your pet carrier as your personal item, which meant you had no carry-ons. Now, American Airlines is saying they're not going to count the pet carrier as the personal item. So now you can schlep on the plane with 3 things. But remember, the pet can't come out of the container. Okay. Rachel says, I still can't understand why Norwegian cruises would leave their passengers behind. It makes me nervous to go on their cruise ships now. Well, let's talk about this. Did they leave their passengers behind, or did they have to leave and the passengers weren't being responsible? If you're taking an organized cruise, an organized shore excursion on that organized cruise, then the shore excursion leaders, contracted by the cruise line itself, are in communication with the ship. And I can't tell you how many times ships have waited when a bus has been delayed or there was an accident on the road and they waited. My understanding on this situation, and I'll be glad to check again, was that these folks went off on a private tour that was not authorized or coordinated through the cruise ship. And at a certain point, the ship had to leave. Now, again, I'm all in favor of doing stuff on your own. I don't want to be stuck on a bus all the time or going to the same tchotchke store. But if you're going to do a private drive with a private driver or a private guide, and the ship sails at 6 p.m., you make sure you're back at 4. You got to give yourself that buffer in case there's traffic or any kind of a delay. They will not wait for you. Okay, let's keep going. Sarah says, I saw a video of a ship going through the Drake Passage and it looks terrifying. Is this truly safe? Well, it does look terrifying. And by the way, I've done the Drake Passage a couple of times. And thankfully, I did not have to have a conversation with the porcelain telephone. About everybody else did. It's about 36 tough hours if the weather is really bad. But guess what? I've never seen a cruise ship sink in the Drake Channel that I'm aware of. They are rough waters. They're prepared for it. And now, if you don't want to do that, there is now an air bridge. Cruise lines like Silver Sea will let you fly from Chile, the southern part of Chile, or in some cases Argentina, all the way to King George Island, where they've got a runway out there at one of the research stations. And from there, they come with the Zodiacs. They pick you up and you go out to your ship. But I've done the Drake Passage when it was completely calm once. I've done the Drake Passage where I was moonwalking and I'd never moonwalked before. So, but terrifying, a little scary, but you know what? You can do it. You can do it. All right. Sarah says, that was Sarah. Tyler says, looking for a great deal to Ireland this summer and not be able to find one. Well, duh, it's summer. Why don't you go in September, the magic month? Now, if you're hell-bent on going into Ireland in the summer, then don't look at nonstop flights. Look at other flights where you can then join a train out of England, perhaps, and that might lower the cost for you and lessen the pain on your wallet. But Ireland this summer is going to be chock-a-block. I guarantee that. All right, Laura says, I'm planning to go to Vietnam and I'm nervous about the mosquitoes and Zika. How much of a threat is this out there? Zika, not so much. Mosquitoes, guess what? They either love you or they don't. Or they either hate you or they don't. I don't get mosquito bites. My wife shows up and there are mosquitoes with orange cones guiding them in. So it's all depending on your own metabolism and your own body chemistry. But of course, you can do bug spray left and right, and that does help. Okay. Michelle, I read that Arizona is the best place to retire. What are your thoughts on this? It's one of the best places to retire. Always has been, by the way, right? In the 1920s and 30s, people went out to Arizona to breathe the air, to retire. Now they're out there because the taxes are better. Look, I'm in Florida right now, America's retirement capital. But again, why are you retiring to those places? Other than lifestyle and environment, it's also taxes. It's also cost of living. And of course, it's healthcare. And Arizona excels in great healthcare these days, and that be a good reason why it is one of the best places to retire. Kate, where's the best way to go to see? Where's the best place to go to see the Northern Lights this year? Well, I've got a couple of them. One is the Faroe Islands. Anybody want to know where those are? Midway between Iceland and Denmark, and the smallest country in the EU, and the coolest capital city, Tórshavn. Check it out. All right. Amy says, flying into Porto and out of Lisbon for the last week of May, planning on doing a Douro Valley Day tip tour, blah, 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 blah. Should we be spending the extra night in Lisbon or Porto? Well, if you're only spending one night, depends on what time you're getting there. So you can spend the next day enjoying it. If you're only spending one night in either of those two cities, you got to do Lisbon first. However, I'm a huge fan of Porto. One of my favorite restaurants in the world is in Porto. I'll tell you the name of it. It's called 1756. And if you love seafood, they have a dish on that menu. I'm not making this up. Everybody who've ever sent there not only loved it, they ordered 2 orders. It's called salmon tataki, done in a way you've never seen before. Unbelievable. And of course, all the port in Porto. But if you're going to Lisbon, I have 3 favorite restaurants in Lisbon. One is called Aqui Peixe, which means the fish is here. Another one is called Je ne sais quoi on Avenida Libertad. Beautiful restaurant, fine dining. And then my crazy fun restaurant, Pop Sorda, right there in the Time Out building in Lisbon. It's on the 2nd floor. It's known for great food, but it's known for something else, dessert. And only one thing do you order, the chocolate mousse. And in most restaurants around the world, when you order chocolate mousse, it comes out in this little teeny champagne glass with a smaller little spoon. It's ornamental. Not at Pop Sorda. You order the chocolate mousse, and while you're waiting for that little champagne glass, you're tapped on the shoulder, and you look behind you, and there's the waiter with a huge bowl and a bigger ladle, and oh my God, you need a stretcher to leave the restaurant because you're going to overeat the chocolate mousse, which is phenomenal. Okay. Hey, let's go to the photo of the week while we're at it. And congratulations to Linda Leibrock, or Leibrock. And Linda writes, this was taken from my hotel balcony at sunrise on the Cap Dale, Marina. By the way, if you don't know where that is, it's located right on the French-Monaco border. And of course, the Côte d'Azur is magical at all times of the year. But when you wake up, by the way, for those people who like train trips, do the train from Paris to Nice. And of course, it'll continue on to Monaco and Villefranche. But the train from Paris to Nice is the night train. And in the morning, around 5:30 or 6, when you're coming around the Côte d'Azur, the shot that you just saw from Linda there is right at your train window. It is just amazing. All right, let's scroll down and see if we have any final notes and comments here. Okay. Our good friend John Lample, greetings from Tenerife from the Canary Islands. And tomorrow's going to Lanzarote, which reminds me, John, look out for our special that we did on the hidden Canary Islands. You can find it right now on Amazon or Apple TV. Hello from Louisville, says Barbara. Ann Arbor, says Randy. And Anna's actually rating the show. She says, good show today. Thank you, Anna. For tickets to South America question, flying to Santiago around November 22nd for 2 weeks and flying back from Rio on 12/9. Well, there's your open jaw ticket. Which airline are you flying on? Or which airline do you want to fly on? Lorena says, headed to Madison, Wisconsin in June. Do you know a good restaurant near the Old Brick Botanical Garden? I'm going to give you a couple of restaurants, but it has nothing to do with where it's near the garden. Madison's a very small and manageable city. Go up to the Capitol Square. If you want lunch, go to the Old Fashioned. It's the traditional Wisconsin bar. Yes, they make old fashions there, but the reason why you're going there, the cheese curds. And then a few blocks away, actually on the same block, you'll find a great place for dinner called Gray's. And by the way, before you're waiting for your table, they come around, they give you truffle French fries. No, and truffle popcorn, even better. Anyway, there you have it. All right, any more today? I'm going to take a quick look here. Okay, of course, a little housekeeping note. Our radio show this week is coming from the Seine in France. And for those of you who think the Seine is just a river in Paris, think again. It goes 485 miles from Paris all the way to the open ocean and the sea in Le Havre. And where do we take it? We were on the Viking longship Radgrid. And where were we going? All the way to the heart of Normandy. And why were we going there? To do a radio show on the upcoming 80th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944, June 6, 2024. So I hope you get a chance to listen. If you can't find a radio station in your market, that's easy. Just go right to our website, petergreenberg.com. We stream it live starting at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time, Friday morning. So I hope you get a chance to do that. Of course, Travel Detective premiering next month on PBS. Check your local listings. We'll have more on that in the next couple of weeks. And of course, we will stay on top of the Boeing story because good, bad, and ugly, it's not a story that's going away, nor should it go away until we can fix and resolve the culture of safety and the relationship that the FAA has with not just Boeing, but other manufacturers and other airline operators. It has to be fixed. Okay, guys, I'm on a plane. I'm getting out of here. I will see you next week from another location somewhere around the world. Have a great rest of the week and a great upcoming weekend, and I'll see you on the radio.